Esther and El Shaka Ide. And trust me, it's going to be an amazing session. We're going to go on a short break today. Right now, excuse me. And when we're back, just a few seconds. And then when we're back, we're going to start the show proper. Stay tuned.
Always be here, always be near, always with me, always be good, always be true, always with me, always on time, always on my mind, always with me, always be mine, always be here, always be near, always with me, always be good, always be true, always with me, always on time, always on my mind, always with me, always be mine, always never far from me, always never far from me, closer than my sister, more like a lover, you never stray far from me.
Okay, welcome back. See, I'm excited already. So I'm smiling in the studio. I'm so excited to see Esther and El Shaka. They are with us already. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Can you hear me clearly?
Loud and clear.
Great. Please introduce yourselves to our audience, because if I start, I don't think that I will finish. So please introduce yourselves.
Well, hello. My name is El Shakar Ide, and right beside me is a very beautiful wife, Esther Ide. I don't know what else to say. I mean, what can I say? You can really introduce us because I don't know.
Because it's okay. Since you want me to do it my own way, Esther and El Shaka Ide are two amazing individuals. Both of them actually in a very, deep way have played a huge part, in my relationship with God. And I don't think they even know the depth of that impact. They are, two amazing humans that the Lord has brought together, to bless our generation. And it's just so beautiful to have the two of them here with us today. Fun fact. Yeah. Fun fact, El Shaka I think it was the first or the second person I called when the Lord gave me the assignment of the glitch. And I remember I spoke with him about it, and he was the one that gave me that, oh yeah, sure, it's something and he's a huge part of why we're even here today. In fact, it was my very first guest. Hey, God. So, yeah, I really appreciate you both, and thank you again for joining us on the show today. So I want to start with you, Esther. Is it not? I was thinking today, just as I was getting ready for today's show, and one question that kept bugging me was, the last session we had was a pretty interesting one. Why do you think the Lord had us talking about your relationship with your family, even though we had said we're going to be talking about your relationship with your husband? Do you know?
And that's a very good question. When you know the answer, let me know.
Interesting, because I was thinking about it, and one thing that popped into my heart as I was thinking about it is the word identity. Now, this brings me to, I won't say my first question, because I already asked you the first question. The second question, which is, what role do you think identity plays in our relationships generally, before we even now come into, marriage and romantic relationships?
Oh, identity. So, I'll say the fundamental. If I do not know who I am, I will not certain of things that I'm doing and what I can also receive from that person. I can't even have like a productive relationship with anyone if I'm not out of who I am. And so one of the things that I've realized is that the absence of the understanding of identity can, do it in person is to, you really find yourself in very unhealthy spaces. So for example, you can find yourself comparing yourself to your friends, to people around you, never feeling like you're good enough, no matter, always or consistently seeking validation from people. You can't really be at your optimum best when you don't really know who you are. So identity is very key. Something that's also even coming to mind, the absence of identity can bring you to a place where you start to look for yourself in every other thing of what you are. So you can now start to find yourself being attached to people, being attached to things, being addicted to something, just so that you can find a sense of, identity. And oftentimes, we definitely find ourselves in that place where we have more collective identity than individual identity. And so when that collection is out of the way, it's very difficult for the individual to know who they are and what is happening.
Amazing. So it's important to know who we are, and it's important not to seek validation in any and everything. Elsheka, my question to you is this. How would you say that identity, finding your identity, has played a role in your relationship with your wife now?
I mean, wow. That's a very broad question, I mean, whilst Ethel was talking, I was just thinking about the concept of identity, and interestingly, what else came to my mind is salt,
Is what?
Salt is not a main dish. Salt is something that when it's applied to the main dish, it amplifies its flavor. Now, if salt doesn't know what it is, then you find yourself competing. You say, why, why don't you have plenty of me on the plate? You only need this much salt to, boost up the flavor of a dish, but you need so much rice to fill your stomach. So, in a sense, knowing who I am, who I'm called to be, it makes me know my place, and not fight for a role, position, function that is not essentially my own. I find that in relationships, but I mean, I think something as simple as thing. Let's say, okay, physically now, right? I'm physically stronger than her, right? If I didn't know that, I would be saying, why am I the only one always carrying this heavy stuff? Why can't you? I don't think you know what I'm saying. I'll start to drag her with all those kind of things, and also maybe being aware of, I mean, like, for example, if one takes like marriage counseling programs and stuff like that, they talk about how each person needs to know their temperament in order to understand how they work with the other person. That awareness lets you, know that one, the fact that this person doesn't reason the way I do doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them. Where you see life from a different perspective as a result of our past experiences in life and so on and so forth. So just knowing who I am, I see that it's not a big question. It's so hard to, because when I think of identity, I think it's so broad, because to be honest, we as people, whether we like it or not, we put on so many hats, and we're a juxtaposition of so many things, but I would say it helps me know my position, the place I have, the place I have in life, and what I'm supposed to be, and how that is supposed to be expressed at the time. And if I don't know that, I'll find myself contending in areas where I should be authentic. I'll just put it like that. It's helped me know how to compliment her as opposed to contend with her. So yeah, because everyone has a role where they're the main dish, and everyone has a role where they're the salt. So in both our lives, the areas where she's the main dish, I'm the main dish, she's the salt, I'm the salt, and me being aware of that makes me know when I'm supposed to compliment and help, and when I'm supposed to take the lead, or where she's supposed to take the lead, and stuff like that. So that's what I'm saying.
Amazing. Complimenting and not contending. That's really profound. So this is for both of you now.
Why do you look like you have some forms you're ready to? I think I don't see your face. Like you're planning on,
Trust me. Trust me, I didn't have anything planned for you. All right, so here's what I want to ask. Since you're coming together either during the dating phase or even now that you're married, as that core conviction of who you are and where your place is in each other's life, has it been shaken by anything, maybe something that happened or, a particular season in your life? Have you always been so sure and, just always so confident about, okay, so this is how this is going to be and all of that? Or has anything happened to shake either the both of you at the same time or, you as individuals that made you question everything again, like, Omo, are we sure we really understand what's going on here?
Can we go? Okay. I find that, there's this thing where, there's not a state, it's something that I'm actually preaching right now.
Okay.
Faith talks about our conviction that is rooted in what God has said, God's word, the truth that comes. And feelings, let me use the word, feelings are a reaction to happenstances around us, right? And sometimes we confuse feelings with faith, I would say, because, for example, now, for a fact that this is who you're supposed to be with. You know that God has brought you here, for example, just using myself as an example. And I know that this person, okay, let me give an example. I know she's a good woman. I know she's a lovely woman. But one day, I'm upset. And in me being upset, I begin to forget the fact that this person is a good woman, and I start to use a singular moment to define things. And oftentimes, it happens all across, it's happened a lot in relationships, but realizing that what I'm feeling is valid. That is the reality of what I'm experiencing right now. But what I'm feeling isn't necessarily true. I think that makes sense. And it's I guess learning that I can feel so many things. Like, for example, now, maybe have you ever had a moment when maybe something will pinch you on your hand, and in the moment you first of all feel the pain, you find yourself get so very angry, like, oh my God, what's this pain? And then you realize it was just something silly, and then you just catch yourself because you allowed what let's say in your mind, to overshadow the thing you were feeling, and to give it a better definition that all is well. So it's been a journey of, I guess, understanding that my feelings, even though they are valid, even though they have roots, they're not always an accurate testament of reality, of what is true. And just, I hope I'm answering your question. I hope I'm properly.
I didn't get that.
I hope I'm answering the question properly.
Please go on. There's no wrong answer. We're on track.
Fair enough. And knowing that my feelings are not everything. They are something, but they're not always everything, because my feelings are conditioned by a lot of things, by the things that I've taught growing up, by what I've watched in movies, all kind of expectations that one has to unlearn, So if they have been shaking, it has never really been rooted in what the right thing to say. Whenever I mean, just if I'll go, let me say, biblical, whatever, like that. Let me give an example. When Peter's feet was shaking, when Jesus Christ was captured and everything, yeah, his fear was valid, but it wasn't rooted in something that was true. And that's why he was able to lose sight of what he knew as a fact, even before that moment. So there's been a lot of that, and realizing that in moments when I begin to question the validity of this place that God has put me in, then something is wrong. I have to find that. So, yeah, what I'll say.
Okay, so Esther, Oshaka has given us a profound biblical example. Can you give us a practical example? Tell us something that happened. Yes.
That's a fine one.
Just find one that we can save life.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. I understand that.
Okay, I would say it was probably like an experience that happened when we just met. So I sent a message. We had just met. So I sent a message. But leading to that time,
We can't hear you clearly. We can't hear you clearly, though. I don't know if it's...
Okay. Let me get it. Is
okay.
it better now?
Yes. Yes, at that tempo, yes, better.
Okay. All right. So I was saying that it's an experience that happened when we just started talking. And I sent a message to him about, something. I think it was about being vulnerable. Yeah, because we just met. And then he used to be so guarded, He used to be so guarded, it was super frustrating. So I was like, the time we're going to build, a friendship where we can be vulnerable with each other. And then he sent me right? He sent me a super long message, very long. It was quite long. And that day was my friend's birthday. I remember we're out, went to see a movie. While we were seeing the movie, I checked my phone and I saw this thesis. So it was so long. It's it was long.
A speech.
It was a long message. I wish it was a speech to make it.
Wow.
And he was telling me, he literally was telling me the story of my life.
Wow.
And he was talking about how, what were you even saying?
About
something about never letting his guard down, and that the enemy will not use me as a weapon to make him vulnerable. And
the way
it was so long. I remember saying, this man never again, because I don't think that God will be putting me in this kind of situation. Like that. And I was so certain that no, I can't do it. I was so sure. So, I read the message. I cried. I think I actually cried. I cried because I was like, what is going on? I was just, if we're going to be in each other's lives, then we need to have a friendship. We need to be vulnerable with each other. But then he was going through a phase where, he had just come back to the Lord. So a lot of things that he didn't want to be too careless. You get what I'm saying? He didn't want to be careless. He didn't want to take things for granted. Because obviously, when you become too vulnerable to someone, at some point you won't know when you start making it or when you start compromising on a lot of things that you're not supposed to. So that's where he was coming from. But I think he didn't have the skill to communicate to me that in the way that I'm communicating now. But at that time, it was a thesis. It was basically a Jesus saying against the Satan movement. Because I was like, hey, this is the worst thing ever, So I got into the car. I felt I was feeling so bad. And then I was just like, I'm not going to talk to this person again. But the only thing, and which is something I rarely put out. But on that day, I was like, God, the only thing that's going to convince me that this is somebody that you want to be in my life, but if he reaches out to me before I get. So before I got home, he texted me and he was apologizing. I'm so sorry. He tried to call me and I was cutting the call. I said, never gonna speak to you again. You know, but yeah, he reached out to me. We spoke that day, and you know, it was a moment where I realized that the things will happen. The truth is, things will happen, but two very different people. Or let's not say two very different people, but what two people with two different backgrounds. You know, so obviously we would experience things, we would go through things. But what I like, even though it doesn't feel like that, the lesson that I've learned from that is whenever these things are challenged, it's even more proof that this is where God wants us. Because then we start to see the wisdom of God. And then we also start to see that God doesn't bring people and someone together because people are hurt. But then there are things that you can learn from the other person, and there are things that the person can learn from. So which goes back to what he was saying, and which is so beautifully said, the main dish and salt. You know, there are sometimes that you need a main dish, and there are times that the salt has to amplify your taste and everything. So yeah, I've realized that those moments that it feels like God's word is tested, it is even more proof to see why God has brought us together. That's kind of my point.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you. It is the looks for me, the smiles, the looks. Okay, it's okay. All right. So now I'm going to ask you talked about, you know, vulnerability and how maybe in the beginning vulnerability was kind of like a struggle. Was it a struggle for you as well, Esther? Was it just El Shaka?
I think for both of us, there are things that for both of us on different levels. So I think for me, it was the fact that I wasn't used to people sticking around. So I didn't want to put all my cards, right? You know, so there are times that when I would get hurt, as opposed to making him see me in very vulnerable moments, I would disappear. And I did it a lot. I would just disappear, like I wouldn't take his call, I wouldn't respond to messages. Until one day I think I disappeared, and then he sent me a message. It was the sweetest thing where he sent me a message and he said, I will be here waiting for you whenever you're ready to speak.
Oh my God. Oh wow.
But it was really waiting, you know, for me to be ready. And when I responded to him, he responded back. But I think he had it.
So Elshika, why was vulnerability a very hard thing for you in the beginning?
Well, if I reflect very, you know, as a state of mind at that time, at that time you know what they call imposter syndrome, where you, let me know you got imposter. Let us say I was at the point where I thought that who I was on the inside, my true self, my original self, wasn't worthy of love, wasn't worthy of affection, that if you got to see me, they were going to be like, I'm only loved, valued, appreciated. I have a facade. And well, prior to then, most of my life was like that. You know, even though I was very, very friendly, but no one really knew me. You know, I always kept people at arm's length. Even if you come to my house, you still haven't met me. Like I never really unveiled my heart, because I would say I had a very critical, low self-esteem, you know, and I believe that I wasn't worth so much. So, man, the moment I open up to someone, you know, like, whoa, they're not going to love me anymore. There's that, and there was the aspect she talked about when there was a time when I was just, let me use the word, coming out of the world. Let me use the word world. You know, a lot of crazy life, a lot of, let me use the word promiscuity, you know, and I was in a kind of rehabilitated phase. And when I started talking to her, it was, let me use the word, it was like a strictly, what I had in my mind when I reached out to her was that it was a strictly, is it platonic relationship?
It was Christian brother.
I had Christian brother, and I was I was very, very serious about it. And at that time, I was very serious about it, and I didn't want any of our conversations to go beyond that. Majorly because of, let me use fear, because I've seen who I've been in the past. I was very much aware of what I was capable of. So because of that, I was protecting myself and her from myself. So there is that as well. And so at that time, vulnerability was a challenge. Well, vulnerability when we first met, that is when we were not yet started dating, that the challenge was that I was afraid that I might open old doors. But vulnerability, when we started dating, when it was not time to open up, then came that place of me feeling like, goodness, if you really saw my words, would you still love me? So it was a struggle to think of and actually, because truth be told, I'm a very, very sick person. Like silly in a funny way, like I'm very, very goofy, and there is a I look down on it a lot. Let me use that word. But I look down on myself a lot. And because of that, I expected that people will also look down on me. So because of that, I was high, But thank you for you. Still a learning curve. Every day I get to see areas where, you're hiding for this and that. But that's, if I would answer your question in a nutshell, those are the two reasons why vulnerability was a challenge for me. Yeah.
So, would you say vulnerability is a strength or a weakness?
I think vulnerability, when pointed in the right direction, is a good strength. Because if you're vulnerable, everyone has to have a room where they take everything off. But you can't take everything off in every room, I would say. So you have to, your vulnerability has to be tailored in the right place. So that it is not abused. So that it's not abused. So it's a strength when it's pointed in the right direction, and it's a weakness. I think that's right.
Might not be a weakness, but I just
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting that you say that, and when we talk about this in terms of bringing it home to mental health now, being mentally available for your partner, because we are individuals, and we like to say that we have our own individual struggles, right? Then how are you able to marry those moments of I have my own issues and you seem to have your own issues, I'm not just available? How would you advise us to find a balance there where you're not pushing the person out, you're not rejecting the person, at the same time you're not putting yourself in a space where both of you just crumble because you're not able, in quotes, at that time to take on what they have going on with them? I don't know if my question is clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I think that we just it's one of the reasons
Be what?
and by community. We need community. So by community, I would say, I don't believe in having like 1 million friends, right? I believe in having people that really care about you, people that are willing to see you, and people that not just see you, but they are able to protect you or cover you. And so that's really one thing that, we're thankful to God, for. So sometimes it gets really overwhelming, to be honest. There are times that we feel things that are very, very intense or very heavy. That, so for example, like 2021 was a very heavy year for us, leading to our wedding. he was going through stuff that was quite heavy. And I was going through stuff that was heavy as well. And it was a lot, to be honest, because sometimes we want to have conversations and the conversations now be, oh, you need to listen to me, and someone is like, oh yeah, I would love to listen to you, but I would also like you to listen to me. It just felt like a lot. And so what we started learning was, the first thing was just, tilting back to, or leaning back to our relationship with God. Because the truth is, there's only so much that your partner can carry for you. And sometimes, what I've learned personally, we oftentimes tend to come into relationships or, marriage is this expectation that this person is going to be my alpha and my omega, or this person is going to be my slave, or whatever feeling I have, I'm going to pour it on this person. But what we never really get to realize, or for me, what I get to realize is that some feelings are actually intense. And if the person says that it's intense for them, it doesn't make them love you any less. It doesn't mean that they don't care about you or they don't want to carry that thing with you. It's just intense for them. And let's just say at that moment, they don't have the capacity to carry it because of what they might be dealing with or what they might be experiencing at the time. And so understanding that there should be that place for grace. And the only place that we can find that grace is the one that is our maker. So there's always that place of tilting back to the relationship that we have with God, because there are some things that we need God to help us process. And there are some things that we need God to teach us to involve our partners in the process with us. And also there are things that I've realized that my husband might not be able to help me process. Not because he doesn't want to help me, not because he doesn't love me, not because he's not feeling that burden, but he's just unable to help me process. For some, obviously, he's a man and a woman. There are some things that I need a woman to help me process. There are some things that he needs a man to help me process. And there's only so much that he can help me do in those moments. If I'm not honest about those things, if I'm not willing to see him, in those moments, which, in fact, as I'm even saying, these are still things that, I'm still practicing and I'm still learning, but just realizing that there's only so much that he can do. His shoulders, as much as he has to carry me, I also have to learn to carry him as well. We also have to learn to know when to go to God to carry us. And then we need to ask God for the wisdom to involve the people in our community, or our friends, or our parents, or mentors or uncles or aunties to help us, because there's only so much that we can. And if we're able to find the balance, it makes a whole lot of things easier. At the beginning of our relationship, it wasn't because I remember when we just started talking, I was going through something at the moment. I funny enough, my mind. I think I was, I was suicidal. I'm so sorry that I sound like Chris smiling and saying it, but yeah, that's my coping mechanism. But I was suicidal, and it wasn't nice. It was heavy. It was a lot for me. So I remember sending him a message. He was someone I just started talking to. So I sent him a message and I said, "Oh, this is what I'm feeling." At the time, he didn't know how to process it. It's not like he didn't feel bad for me or anything, but he just didn't know how to process it. So the next thing he sent to me was, "Oh, I'm going to send you a book to read. When you read this book, your life will turn around." And I was so offended. I remember you sent that book to me like in the middle of the night, and I was in my friend's house. I was pacing back and forth, just upset. Like, I get the fact that we talk about God and we study and talk about all these things that we study, but I'm not really in the mood hearing the book that is going to help my life. I just really wanted somebody to talk to, but it only took me a while to realize that feeling I was having, it was such a heavy thing. like you've never seen this person before. You're not in the same country or city. So obviously there might be panic. It might just be, oh, this is a lot. Like, who can I refer to? Who can I refer this situation to? To help guide this person. And I think for him, he was also thinking, this is not just about this feeling you're having. It's something that requires a deeper solution. Something that is deeper than just telling you sorry, I sympathize with you. So yeah, like, it was frustrating for me, but then it took a while for me to actually realize that that was something he couldn't carry. And that's something that I needed to okay. And even now, there are some things that he might be experiencing that he will need a man, to walk him through those. But there's only so much that I can do. So again, I think it still goes back to that thing about identity, knowing what role we play in each other's lives and how we can maximize, our capacity.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, just my experience. I mean, I find that deep down, everyone was, like, I want to be able to just sit down. I mean, this whole idea of, packaging, and I have to present myself a certain kind of way in order to be accepted. I find that deep down we all because why can't I just come as I am and be, and you love me and you take, why do I have to speak a certain kind of way? Why do I have to dress a certain kind of way in order to be accepted? Because we all came to the world naked, right? So deep down, there's that desire to be quote unquote naked, if not physically, but if not literally, but figuratively, where I can be vulnerable and I'm not in danger. I found that for me, deep down, there's been a deep desire, and I believe it's the same for her too. And then that brings that next part of the conversation of vulnerability, especially relationships to mental health, is that how to create that space where the partner can be vulnerable. Because it's not just about being vulnerable and opening up. It's about, am I safe?
Yeah.
If I, reveal this part of myself, will I be judged? Will I be condemned? Will I still be loved? And I mean, in relationships where both people don't feel safe around one another, it causes real mental problems, because you find that every time you have to, like they say, walking on eggshells. I'm not sure, and usually in the beginning of relationships, when there's a lot of misunderstanding when people are still trying to fill themselves out, understanding their temperament. There's a lot of that, like, let me, that's why you can't judge a person completely by the first date, because they will be on their best behavior, they will do everything they do. Some people, you meet them on the first date, what you see is what you get, but deep down there's that desire to completely open up, but the way, I guess, we try to help one another and help themselves by creating that space where they can speak. But there, in my experience, I like using my experience a lot. I mean, there's a lot of hearing from other people, but I like my experience. In my experience, there are key moments in a relationship that I would define as defining moments where if when that person opened up in that point or at that time, the way you react really gives that person a strong definition of what it's about.
Very true.
And in that moment, if they open up themselves, you don't know, right? You don't know that in that moment they really open up themselves, But in that moment where they are vulnerable and they are expressing something, or they've done something that makes them feel ashamed or not, so secure, how that moment is treated will tell them whether or not they're in a safe space. So it's not always about, be vulnerable, that's one half. The other half is creating a space where vulnerability is welcome, where judgment is slow, where understanding is quick, and where there's a lot of patience, and that's something we're working on. We've really been intentional about doing that because, like I said, in the beginning of our relationship, there were moments where we both were vulnerable, but we both didn't know that was a vulnerable moment, and we did treat it very well, and it stamped something in our mind that you're not safe, and it was later on that when we started having some conversations, we started hearing each other like, oh wow, is that how you felt there? And it gave room to now, help to change perspectives about ourselves, and create more room for, I guess, trust to be built, So if you ask me, from building relationship to mental health, I would say you can't be mentally healthy if everywhere you go you feel insecure. You're very mentally unstable. If you have to be on your guard everywhere. We're not built like that. And if we have to be on guard, it's very bad for the mind. So deep down, everyone has that desire to be very vulnerable, But the flip side, we need a place where our vulnerability is not used against us. It doesn't lead us into danger. We're not abused in the place of vulnerability. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Wow. Thank you so much for saying that. Now, I want to ask you this. What would you say to anyone that is, listening right now and feels like there's no point being vulnerable with anyone because it just seems like they've been, hurt on different levels, and then there's just this wall, that's been built in their hearts? What would you? And then it's so bad that I just feel like there's somebody like that on the call right now. It's so bad that they can't even go to God because they feel like he's just one of those people that, is just concerned about getting it right. He doesn't care about any other thing. He doesn't care about the fact that, I'm having suicidal thoughts. He doesn't care about the fact that, I did something. What would you say to people or someone like that on this call right now?
So I think the first thing is I would most likely want to give up. So I'm thinking for to anyone that might be that anyone that might think that just a very big for and I think the next thing that is on my heart to say, although it is not my fault, but I would really much like to apologize on behalf of anybody that has, gotten these individuals to feel the way that they do. For some people, it might just be experiences they've had when younger, as children, in relationships with their parents, things that were said to them. And for that, I really do want to, ask for mercy on behalf of anybody that has hurt anyone. And then, I wouldn't even say that so much as to what I would like to say to them. I think it would be more of a prayer for them, that God brings healing to your heart. And I also just pray for God to bring healing, to bring His worship through His word, through His Son, and through people. One of the words that God gave me 2018, was something that I made a prayer in my heart because I realized that I was without community as such. I think the last time we were talking, I said I would naturally tilt towards being a donor. To be honest, like that's where I excel. I thrive. I thrive in loneliness. I do enjoy people's company and everything, but one time the Lord gave me this word. I take the lonely and I put them in family. And I did say, God, this is the prayer, and this is the prayer, and I started praying to God that. And then the more I spoke to God, the more God started to help me realize that as much as we want healing comes through
healing comes through people.
Healing comes through people. forgiveness comes through people. Yes, the Lord has forgiven you, but there is a window of forgiveness that you experience when you are forgiven by people that you have hurt. There's a window of healing that you experience when it comes from someone. It's not as if God is not rapper, but then there is just healing that comes from, people that are around you. There is a healing that comes from not being judged, not being condemned, not being cancelled because of something that has happened to you. And that's my prayer for any single person that is experiencing, the fear of vulnerability, that the Lord will bring healing to your heart,
Amen.
Through His word, through His Son, and through people.
Amen.
And I also pray that God will give you discernment, because it is very, very important. Even if we are, living in a community where so many people, profess the name of God, what we need to realize is not everyone has the wisdom to handle your vulnerability. And not everybody has the maturity to handle your nakedness. And so sometimes you will find yourself wanting to strip there in front of people because, we're all believers and we're all Christians and we're in the same community. But not everyone has that wisdom to handle it. Not everyone has the wisdom to look at you in your most vulnerable moments and say to you, you are loved, I see you, and I know, I believe what the Lord has said about you. When people tend to judge, it's not because they are bad people. It's because they don't have the maturity to see past your weakness. And so my prayer for discernment and wisdom, to know who to entrust with yourself,
Amen.
to know who to give yourself. And I really do pray for you, and I pray for every single person that God gives you the wisdom and God gives you the discernment to know who to open up to. That we will not be in so much pain or so much discomfort that we easily just whip out our phones and just start to send messages to anybody. But God will fill our hearts with wisdom to think about those things, process and to actually ask Him, who would you have me speak to about this situation? And even as we're speaking to the person, I also pray that the people that God leads you to will be filled with the wisdom to handle the way God will have them handle. So it's my deepest prayer for anyone here for healing and for wisdom to navigate,
Amen. Amen. Oh, amazing. I just feel this overwhelming peace right now, and there's just so much healing happening right now. I sense it very heavily. Thank you so much for that. El Shaka, in closing, what would you like to say to everyone listening right now, or that will probably listen to this later? Anything. It might not be in connection to anything that is laid on your heart right now to say. Just say it.
I'll say that God our Father is the creator, and the world that we live in is created out of null and void, and which made something out of something that was not anything at all.
We can't hear
And
you.
I dare say
We can't
that
hear you, El Shaka. Can you
Can you
come
hear me?
again? Now, yes, I can.
Can you hear me? I said God our Father is the creator, and everything that we see was created out of, well, null and void, right? And God took something that was nothing and made it something very beautiful. And that understanding is what we have to have entering into anything, whether it's a relationship, whether it's business, whether it's a new venture, that we're called to create. And that beauty that we wish to see, we have to put our mind in that frequency where we know that I have to do something in order to make this thing come into existence. I have to be part of the reason why this thing becomes beautiful. And if for anything, for relationship, because it's so easy to go online and see. I see a lot of people who are in like their 50s, and you see them and they look so lovely. And in your 20s or something, in your 30s, you are feeling bad, and my God, why doesn't my thing look like this? But these people are like 60 years old. Do you know how many years they've had to, to work on this, And that idea that we have to know that whatever we want to see, we have to be part of what creates it. So that mindset of what I want to see, I need to see how I can be part of His creation, even if it's not me directly, but I can call someone who can help to do it. So that idea of waiting for someone to come and do something or for something to fall on our lap, it's a fallacy, it's a lie that we have to discard. And the beauty we want to see in the world, in our life, in everything that concerns us, we have to be ready to put our hands to the plow to see it come to fruition. That's what I'll say to anyone who's listening. Become part of the reason why something is made beautiful. Become part of the reason. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Partnership in relationship. Interesting. Amazing. Thank you so much. That was so powerful. In fact, Esther, thank you for your apology. I feel like, that beyond somebody have hurt me that I didn't remember because I can't explain. This peace, I cannot shake off this overwhelming, peace that I feel right now. And thank you so much, you both. Thank you so much. I still have loads of questions in my head, but then I'm going to hold your legs again, maybe another time, because I'm trusting God that we would have another opportunity to have these discussions, especially in correlation to purpose and assignment. How do you marry, your place and her place and ensure that there is no conflict, understanding that, okay, this is what this person is called to, and understanding that this is what, because I know that's really broad. It can take another, couple of, so I'm hoping I'm happy to hear that you'll be here, so I look forward to having you again on the show. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Wow. All right, so we look forward to having you on the Glitch again. God bless you, El Shakar. God bless you, Esther. And I'm going to be sharing so El Shaka and Esther, they both have, communities, Heaven's Gate Academy, and Esther has, it's not separate self, he's married. It's not a joint venture. And, by this Bible study buddy, and they, help us and teach us, different ways that we can continue to grow in Christ and continue to build our relationship with Him. So I'm going to be sharing contacts to both pages on my own Instagram page at badmus.odunayo. That's BHADMUS.ODUNAYO. And I'm going to also tag their handles so you can follow them. They are amazing people, trust me. All right. Thank you so much, guys. I look forward to having you again. Have a wonderful evening. Goodbye. Okay, we've come to the end of today's show, and thank you so much for staying with us. Remember, if you need counseling, or if you need to talk to someone, a professional, or you need someone to pray with, you can reach out to us, and you can send me a private message on Instagram at badmus.odunayo. That's BHADMUS.ODUNAYO, and we will link you up with someone. It's completely free, right? So remember, be vulnerable, be open, and understand that it takes partnership to make something work. Understand that you need wisdom and discernment to know what to do, when to do it, who to talk to, and how to talk to them at different points in time. And remember, relationships are beautiful, right? And God loves you, He is for you, He is always with you, and He doesn't shy away from hearing the ugliest of things, right? So do not feel like you need to run away from Him because you do not like how you look. He sees it anyway, and He loves you all the same. So reach out if you love to talk, if you love someone to pray with. Thank you for joining us on the show today. See you again next week, Thursday, 6 p.m. on Unstoppable Radio. God bless you. Bye.